RogueCon 23. That's right. It is here. It's not back. It's here. It's the first one. Join the ultimate celebration of digital content with its creators, passionate fans, and industry experts. It is all happening in downtown Waco across multiple venues, January 20th through the 22nd of 2023. Now, if you want to go, you got to get tickets, and tickets are on sale at RogueCon23.com. That's RogueCon, RogueCon 23.com. Be there. I'm going to be there. Everybody's going to be there. Let's go. Coming up on the Payoff. It's been a long couple weeks. Lots going on the home front. I'm in the middle of a move. All kinds of crazy good things that happen when you get sober. But I've fallen behind because I'm a lazy alcoholic. I feel like I've got too many balls in the air. So as I work to sort the balls out, I want to give you this interview with Courtney Friel, a Philadelphia native, an incredible story, beyond successful as a news anchor on Fox News and now in Los Angeles at KTLA, and just a down-to-earth good soul and somebody with an incredible message. And I'll be back with a brand new one. I got a special guest next week, but in the meantime, I want you to enjoy this chat with Courtney Friel, who shares with us an unbelievable story. Very cool girl, very cool story. But first, this guy's new album is coming out very soon. He's filming music videos. He's got other amazing things going on. It's things he won't let me share right now because it's top secret. But no more secret. Kevin Souza.
Stand by the ocean floor.
Hello.
Courtney.
Pete.
You got it.
I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Hi.
You better hope it's me. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I didn't know if you had an assistant.
No, I do not have an assistant. I got a producer. Mike is here.
Hi, Mike.
The book is called Tonight at 10, Kicking Booze and Breaking News. Courtney Friel, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today.
Pete,
it
nice
means a lot.
to meet you over the phone.
Well, you're a Philly girl from Audubon. I'm from right outside Philly, like Villanova. So it's kind of like I was talking to the guy Mike here, the producer, and I told him I reached out to you, and I said she's from Philly. He goes, "You guys have a weird thing about that, people from Philly."
I'm kind of jealous that you hung on to your 610 area code.
You like that?
Yes. I mean, but it's been so long since I've lived there.
Well, we're going to go
Since high
backwards.
school,
We're
pretty
going to go
much.
backwards, and we're going to take you there. But I want to start off with your sobriety date.
It's a very cool one that I don't want to mess up, that I did not plan, because some people do plan these things out. 09/09/09.
And this wasn't planned.
How cool is that? It wasn't. I mean, I checked into rehab on September 8th, and they were like, okay, so your sobriety date will be this. I was like, whoa, that's pretty cool.
So were you drunk or were you like on drugs when you checked into rehab? I was.
It wasn't that bad because I pretty much decided I would go in Florida, and during my little intervention with 7 people surrounding my bed. And then I had like one last drink, which was horrible. It was like a raspberry vodka with 7-Up. And I remember thinking like, this is the worst last drink. But then I flew back to New York to go to rehab there. But I took like some Xanax and Adderall just for kicks, like on the way there, because I knew it was going to be over after that.
Whatever gets you there. That's what somebody told me once. I showed up. I was a mess. When was the first time you drank?
I was 15, and my other friends had all started at 14, and I was like, Christian good girl. No, I'm not doing that. But then I hung out with like 2 guys, and they were drinking beer, and I guess and I hated the taste of beer too. So, but I got drunk super fast, and of course I ended up going home and throwing up in the tub and trying to cover it up. Did a bad job. My mom was like, okay, you're grounded. But for me, it was being able to escape my feelings of like being bullied and not being liked. And also I had been really shy. So I just came out of my shell and became this like fun and funny person. And then I suddenly had all these party friends. So I was like, in a group of people that wanted to be with me. And it was great. I mean, I think that's what so many alcoholics start drinking for, is to deal with social anxiety or to numb stuff out. So like the two main reasons for drinking, right?
I thought so. I'm looking back, I kind of felt like something was wrong with me because I was so shy and scared. I always say when I was going to the dances in 8th grade, I was terrified. And then I started to drink in 9th grade, and I could not wait to get there.
And it's funny now that we're like in very outgoing, extroverted careers like news, which I wanted to do back then, but I was so shy. So it's kind of weird how that turned out. But it's weird because alcohol, like I'm the person today that alcohol made me be, but without the alcohol, if that makes sense. Like I can completely be that like super, like no filter, outgoing person. And obviously could do that sober.
Well, that's what makes you a super attractive sober person. Like I was watching some of your stuff, and you mentioned people think it's not going to be fun if I get sober. It is fun. It's just it's a different kind of fun.
Look, it takes a while. Like anyone who might be considering getting sober or is in the beginning of sober trials, like it sucks in the beginning. It really, really does. I mean, it feels like Groundhog Day because you're not used to being so present with yourself, and the days seem like they're like 100 hours long, and you're like, oh, I'm bored. What do I do with myself? Like, I already went to the gym. Like, how much TV can I watch? I mean, that is completely normal if you are in that. But like, if you just keep like listening to what people in the programs are saying about how your definition of fun changes, like I remember hearing that, and then it's so true. Like, I mean, I just want to like go. I can't wait till the spas open back up here in LA. Like that's my idea of like going to a bar on a Friday night. It's like, no, I want to like go to the Korean spa with my girlfriend. Like I used to hate when I hated massages. Like I remember I went to a bachelorette party and like I just wanted to drink, and they're like, no, we're getting like massages, and I was like, oh, that's so stupid. I don't want people touching me. Like I just want to freaking take shots. And now like getting a massage is like the most amazing thing ever.
Yeah, you're literally very comfortable
very
in
weird
your
how
own
you
skin.
change. You do like, but it's like evolving in a good way. You can like use all those new hours to do self-help on yourself, to take a Spanish class, to start painting, to go travel and actually take in the moments and culture, and not, when I used to travel, I'd just be like drunk the whole time and hungover and in bed and hating myself and not seeing anything.
The first time you drank, you were 15.
Mm-hmm.
You were kind of a force of nature in high school. How did drinking affect your day to day? Like when you started to drink, did you notice you were that person who was going to drink every weekend? Or
my parents were really strict, so it through high school it could only be a weekend thing. It was like going out to my friends' houses, like Philly. It was like bonfires, and like my friend had a barn, so her parents just let us all like have parties in the barn. So I would just stay there on weekend nights and drink. I mean, I looked forward to the weekend partying for sure, but I also knew way early on that I wanted to work in TV news. So I like during the weeknights like lived in the TV studio until 10 o'clock at night at school, because I just was constantly working on all of my little projects for our TV channel that our school had. But that's where I developed the work hard, play hard mentality too.
did you find that you were like kind of sinking yourself, looking back now, right, with the knowledge you have, did you find that you were throwing yourself either into work or social, and social included the drinking now?
My whole 15-year party career, my job and partying were the most important things to me. So drinking never got in the way of me doing my news stuff. I mean, towards the end, obviously it was definitely affecting me, but like I was very dedicated to getting the TV stuff done first and then going out and raging. And when I went to college, that's where things, of course, stepped up, as it does for so many people, because you're not living with your parents. So we would drink every single night and find a reason to drink, like, oh, it's the new moon tonight. And then I also did a ton of ecstasy, and that's when I started doing cocaine. And so,
All this in college?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, so I moved out to LA. I did my first year of school in North Carolina.
Where'd you
And
go in North
then
Carolina?
I went to a smaller school called Elon.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's where we did tons of ecstasy, and I was starting to dabble in coke. And my roommate from there, we ended up moving out to LA in '99, and like we needed to have like a job too, so we walked down to the tanning salon right on the corner, and turns out that guy was like a major coke dealer, our boss. And so that entire year I did coke every single day. I mean, I would do it I was going to Santa Monica City College just to get my residency there. And I would do it in the bathroom, like in between studying in the library or in between class. And my roommate, she'd give me a line to wake up, and we'd be up. I mean, we just got free coke the entire year. I would do coke and do lines and then jump in a tanning bed. Like, I don't even know how I
Were there any consequences?
So I was extremely skinny and very tan, skinny and tan, and looked horrible. No, well, here's the sad part of the matter is that was the only year in college that I got straight A's.
Oh, great.
So, I was like a B+ student, like always. I always say I'm more street smart than book smart, but I did well, but like really, like the cocaine helps me get straight A's. So, and then later on, when I didn't have my cocaine, I would snort my Adderall. So that's what kids are doing these days, all the Adderall. It's basically like cocaine in a pill, right?
It's amazing. I always, that was the first time I ever felt any change chemically was when I was a kid and I was taking Ritalin, and I remember being like, "Oh man, I'm turned on now. I'm effective."
Yeah, that's probably what I miss the most in sobriety. Like, I don't really miss anything, but every now and then it's like, oh, it'd be nice to have an Adderall. But my 5 drugs of choice were alcohol, cocaine, Adderall, Ambien, and Xanax. So all of those things, I can't have now. And I haven't had for 11 and a half years. It's been 11 and a half years.
11 and a half years.
Mm-hmm. And you're coming up on 10, right?
I'm coming up on 10. Thank you very much. Yeah. November 7th, 2011. So I'm 11/7/11. You're 09/09/09.
Yes.
You're in LA, and you're working at the tanning salon. You're doing a lot of blow. And when did you work?
Oh, yeah. So I ended up at the end of the year going to the hospital thinking that I was having a heart attack, which turned out to just be like really bad acid reflux from all the crappy vodka and Diet Cokes that I had drank that whole year.
And extreme paranoia probably too.
Yeah, and of course I didn't tell them that that's what I was. I'm sure now they were like, oh, this girl's hot, super high. And I told myself I wasn't ever going to do it again. And so a year and a half went by without cocaine. And the progression of alcoholism and addiction, it's like the train that just keeps on moving. Like they say, your disease is doing push-ups in the parking lot, and that's why so many people overdose after they have tried to get sober, because it just doesn't, like, it's not like it's not like, and that's why you have to keep replaying the tape and reminding yourself, like, this is how it gets. There's no such thing as one drink. I can't drink like a normal person, because the moment alcohol touches my lips, I will immediately want cocaine, and I will be like up all night, and I'll be like, like with alcohol for me, it was just like I'd end up crying, or I'd end up in a fight, or I'd end up disappearing, or end up puking or passing out. Like nothing good came from it ever.
How about Channel 1? Because I was a kid.
You had Channel 1 in your school?
Yes, at Archbishop Carroll. So I know that you were on there, and were you in Philly and then you got the opportunity to go to Channel 1, or were you already in LA?
Yeah, no. I was a sophomore, or was it a junior? I can't remember. I was 16 when I went there. So I think it was my junior year when I got picked for that. And so I was still like, I was still in work mode under like my parents' roof and everything. So it's not like we were drinking there or anything.
Okay.
And that was very exciting to get that call that I had been picked for that.
Yeah, for people who don't know, Channel 1 was like a who's who of who's going to make it in the news industry. It was like a
Well,
lot.
I always say it was the Mickey Mouse Club for journalists. So like Anderson Cooper, and Lisa Ling, and Maria Menounos. They're just some of the bigger names from there.
So that had to be a huge assist for you. You're working at the tanning salon and you're going to school. Do you still have that goal of being a journalist?
Oh my gosh. Oh yeah. And even while I was working at the tanning salon doing coke, I was also interning at MTV. And then I got an opportunity to be like a little digital journalist, or like kind of like a one-man band for Oprah. Had just launched the OWN channel and so it was a show on there. And I did that for like a year and a half while I was in college. I would shoot stories and they would air. I was always working towards becoming a news anchor. Like I was obsessed with that. So luckily, like, thank God, like my addiction didn't like spiral too out of control that I couldn't do that. But look how many functioning alcoholics and addicts there are out there. I mean, in every profession where there's success, whether you're a doctor or a cop or professor, I mean, it doesn't discriminate. There are successful, functioning alcoholics everywhere. And that's why, like, initially I thought, oh, an alcoholic is like a person who beats their wife and lives on the street and doesn't pay their rent and doesn't have a job, like the bum, but that's not the case at all.
Did you ever get in any big trouble when you were younger going through this that was brought on by alcohol or drugs?
I mean, I had a federale knock on my car door in Tijuana when I was doing coke in broad daylight off a CD, and he's like, you need to pay me $200 to get out of this. So we went to the ATM and I gave him the money, and then I actually had the balls to ask him if I could get the drugs back, and he gave it to me.
No, he didn't.
Yeah. And then I went back across the border to a party in San Diego. Was like, y'all, this is really expensive blow tonight.
So you were constantly, do you notice that too, looking back, right? Because that's what the addict does. Like there are these doors you walk through or stop signs you blow through. I mean, that's like normal people don't do that. I'm
so grateful that I did not have any big legal repercussions. Like I never had a DUI. And thank God I never overdosed, because right around the time I was getting sober, that's when Heath Ledger and DJ AM died. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's going to happen to me. Like I have 5 things in my system too. Like I'm just not going to wake up one day. And at that point, I didn't even care. I think I was so like depressed because of course alcohol is a depressant. So people who are depressed really shouldn't be drinking because it's just depressing them even more. But also, like, when I was working at Fox News in New York, like, and that's when I got sober in 2009, I was starting to get really concerned that I was going to get arrested for buying drugs from, like, some shady dealer. Because I would just have, like, shady drug dealers show up wherever I was all the time. And then sure enough, like, probably, like, 8 years later or something, I read an article about a Fox News producer who got caught up in, like, I guess they were doing a big takedown of some drug guy in New York City, and she had only bought like 2 8-balls from him, and there were all these people in like high executive level things that were named for having bought coke like once or twice from some guy, and of course they got fired. And so like that wasn't that far off from me being concerned about that. So I'm so grateful that didn't happen. And Fox was super cool about me going to rehab and everything. I think they appreciate people who want to do something before like having a big scandal and having to go to rehab.
What got you to rehab? You're obviously like, it's getting pretty crazy, right? The tanning salon job is, right. I mean, it sounds awesome, but of course it's big time trouble. And then,
well, remember the tanning salon job was 10 full years earlier. So, I mean, I had like instances where like I almost got fired from World Poker Tour when I was hosting that.
What happened there?
Well, so my very first night shooting, I hung out with, I was like partying after because it was in Vegas, and like ran into the crew in the cafeteria area of the Bellagio. We had access to that, and like was eating with them at like 4 a.m. and like completely passed out into a plate of spaghetti, and my dress was falling off and stuff. And since that was my first night, like with the crew, like they told on me, and so the head of the show called my agent and was like, "Do we have a problem here?" And I was like, "No, oh my gosh." So I quit for like 9 months, just like cold turkey doing everything because I was so scared about that.
Did anybody tell you to quit? Like did anybody say you have to stop?
No, but it was kind of like a big like warning thing, like, oh my God, yeah, like I have a problem. I mean, at that point, like my coke dealer had been like showing up randomly at my apartment, and I thought like, that's kind of shady. Like that's probably a problem.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I knew I had a party girl reputation. Like when I went to Fox, I was told that, well, you have a party girl reputation. Like, and I was coming from LA to New York, so how did those people in New York know about that?
What happened with when you drank again? So you stopped drinking for 9 months and just.
Oh yeah. So with World Poker Tour, we got to travel a lot. So like 2 months in, I went to Paris to shoot there, and I drank there and like had the worst hangover for days. And then I just didn't tell anyone when I came back to the U.S. And then when we were in the Bahamas at month 9, the same person who kind of like convinced me to drink in Paris convinced me to drink there. And I mean, I remember it's at this time I had to shoot a couple episodes in the Bahamas after drinking, and I mean, I just can't have one. It like ends up being an all night thing, and I was so hungover during those shows. Like it was just awful. So I bring that up. I like to talk about that when I speak and stuff, because I know what it's like to stop drinking for 2 months and then to have a night out, and then also after another 7 months to have a night out. I mean, it's just amplifying the hangover. Like it's just so bad when you do stop. And so I've had experience with clearly like not being able to just have one drink. Like it's just not enough. I just can't do it. And I don't even know what the point is, because why have the calories if you're just going to have one? Like I drank to get drunk.
When you talk about like stopping drinking cold turkey, and because I always think like, man, I wish people would just try it out, like try out sobriety or try out a program. Describe the difference between those two things.
Oh, you mean just being dry and cold turkey and then being in a program?
Yeah.
Well, and look, I mean, I don't know if do you talk about AA? Cause
yeah. I mean,
that's a touchy subject.
Look, I am not. Here's what I say, Courtney. Like, I am not a representative of Alcoholics Anonymous. And if it comes up, I just say it saved my life. I'm not a representative, but in my experience, here's how it worked.
Yeah, I mean, I have an issue with the fact that we're not supposed to talk about it. I mean, I'm not going to tell anyone else's, break anyone else's anonymity, but like, I think nowadays with the internet and everything, I feel like we should be able to attract what worked for us, right? Like, if we really want to help and be of service, like, we should be able to share that worked for me. And so I think everyone should do the 12 steps. And it's about dissecting your life and being able to look back at where you were wrong and clean up your side of the street and continue to do that in every situation. And, kind of take inventory on like, oh, where was I bad today? Where could I be better? And of course, meditation and helping others, and just knowing that like, it's not all about you in this world. And there is a higher power, whether with God or the universe or the doorknob or AA as a group, like that something else can, help you, because you clearly don't, can't do it on your own. I've kind of been looking into like Al-Anon, like I feel like for like control, like if you have like control issues or like no other alcoholics or people's behavior that you like, if you're upset about, like that's like an Al-Anon issue where you're supposed to kind of be like, hey, stay out of everyone else's hula hoop. Like you do you can't control what anyone else does. So just work on you.
Yeah, I just heard Sharon Stone was on a podcast because she's got a book coming up, and she talked about she was very, you could tell she was just centered, and she was right sized. And then she talked about the 12 steps and how she incorporated them in her life. She said, I'm not an addict. She said, but I've come across them through work in Al-Anon, and it changed my life. And it's kind of the same thing you're talking about. Anybody could use these steps. I mean, I needed them bad, but anybody can use them.
Yeah, I really wish that everyone would do them. I really would.
Totally. Well, so I want to get towards the end of your drinking. Your career is taking off. I mean, I know this just from being a news person. So you're like one-man banding, like an MMJ, which is like you're in Jackson, Mississippi, which is like basically you go out, you shoot.
Oh, no. It wasn't. I wish it was Jackson, Mississippi, because that would have been a bigger market. It was Jackson, Tennessee, which I didn't even know existed.
Yeah, I understand that feeling. Yeah.
It was like market 183, which I wanted to start at the bottom. I wanted to work my way up. And yeah, I one-man band. I mean, that was the only year of my career I had to do that for the most part. And I was really lucky. Like, I got to go to Fox News when I was 26. I was the youngest person they hired on air. I mean, I was completely unprepared for it. I had done some local news and the entertainment programming stuff, but I always say I should have done KTLA where I work now. I should have done KTLA before I went to Fox. I mean, I can't change my journey now, but I think that, like, and I dealt with bullying there too. So it was like the
At
bullying
Fox?
thing was like, yeah, because like the older women, like they did not like the fact that I was getting so much airtime, and they were mean to me, and I was experiencing success at a younger age. So, and everybody there partied. I mean, I partied with so many people there in New York. Like, that just took my addiction to a whole new level, because before, when I had lived in LA, like, we had to drive places. We didn't have Uber or Lyft, and there really weren't taxis. So then coming to New York and like seeing that bars are open till 4 a.m. and you can take taxis places, like, that was like, wow, as a kid in a candy store. And then also, like, I was working the morning shift, so I needed, I got a psychiatrist who, like, just you pay them in cash because they don't take insurance, and they're like, oh, here's some Adderall, and here's some Ambien, and here's some Xanax. And then I couldn't go anywhere without a bottle of Xanax on me, because I felt like, what if I have a panic attack, like, in the subway, if the subway goes down? It was just all these chemicals that weren't necessary. And when I stopped all that, when I got sober, like, it's just amazing the level of, like, calm. Like, I used to not be able to fly anywhere. I'd have to be drunk to fly, or I'd have to have Xanax to fly. And now, like, I barely even notice we're taking off. And that is just like a gift from God.
Yeah.
That has happened. But it's really amazing. I mean, I just love being sober. I love the calmness, not having drama, and it's all the sayings are true that you hear in AA, that you live the wildest dream, or what does it say?
Yeah, a life beyond your wildest dreams.
Yes, that. Like, all of those things are true. The more time that you get, it just, it's a one day at a time thing. And when you start building up time, you're like, oh wait, I'm like a badass, because I've been living life on life terms throughout all this stuff. Like, I got through a divorce, I got through moving across the country and changing jobs, and all the headaches and the health things, and it's so great that I've been able to do it sober. And now it's become such a thing that I cherish. And that's why I was open about it when I was 6 years sober. That's when I, like, came out about it publicly on my social media and stuff. Like, people in my life knew, but I was like, oh, I'm going to share this. I felt like I had enough, like, credibility at the time to do that. And then I was very well received, and I got so many questions about it that I was like, well, I need to just write a book so that I have it all in one place, so that I can be like, here, read my book, because I can't answer, I can't answer the questions in a 140 character tweet or an Instagram post. I just don't have the time to do that. So the book I wrote to help people. I mean, that was the whole intention.
And by the way,
now hopefully it's going to be turned into a movie.
By the way, I heard that. I was about to bring that up. So in August, this is getting optioned for a movie about your life based on this book. Is that what's happening?
Yes. And the first draft of the script is, like, do any day. And so I've already read the treatment for it. I mean, I have good people who are really interested in doing it. Now, I also know Hollywood takes forever.
Yeah.
So we'll see if it actually gets made. I mean, the next step will be them having to like get an actress and a director on board and studio and all that. So cross your fingers that somebody wants to pick it up and it gets made, because the whole intention is to help people.
Yeah, my fingers are crossed. And your husband kicks ass, by the way, because you told me last night when we were messaging, I mentioned I used to work in basketball in the NBA, and he's doing the HBO. He's writing the HBO show, which is based on reality about the Lakers.
Yeah, it pretty much came to fruition because of him, but that was like a 6-year process to get that into shooting. So now they're shooting that, and he has 20 years. Well, he'll have 20 years sober in October. So we met at an AA meeting, and it's so great being in a sober relationship as well. But before that, I mean, I got divorced at year 5. And I also
what was that like,
kids.
going through that sober with 2 kids? I mean,
look, like for 2 years, all I did was cry. I mean, I was a mess. I mean, we don't like feelings as alcoholics. So that's when I learned how to meditate and did all these like self-help things, like, oh, let's go trapezing, or let's do yoga with goats or whatnot. Like, but I mean, I knew at that point that being sober, of course, like I had to continue on with that. It's not like I was like wanting to drink, but I was wanting to escape the pain of that, because it was the death of a 12-year relationship. It was the death of like the family unit. And it was just being able to grieve that, but then also trying to date in LA while sober. Oh my goodness. Because a lot of people have issues out there, and you hold a mirror up to them when you are sober, unintentionally, of course, but they recognize their problems by seeing you and how you have your shit together. So, yeah, I mean, so for 4 years, I did the whole dating thing in LA. And look,
was it nerve-wracking to start?
Some people didn't want to date me because I was sober.
I mean, and you can tell, right? Like, they may not come right out and say it, but you're like, oh, this person is a little, sheepish about the fact
right.
that.
So in my book, I have a whole chapter on sober dating and kind of like what to look out for. Like, there's tons of red flags that you can just look for. I mean, I had to learn them all, of course.
RogueCon 23. That's right. It is here. It's not back. It's here. It's the first one. Join the ultimate celebration of digital content with its creators, passionate fans, and industry experts. It is all happening in downtown Waco across multiple venues, January 20th through the 22nd of 2023. Now, if you want to go, you got to get tickets, and tickets are on sale at RogueCon23.com. That's RogueCon, RogueCon 23.com. Be there. I'm going to be there. Everybody's going to be there. Let's go.
Hi, I'm Hank. You might remember me from a show called King of the Hill. Check out a King of the Hill rewatch podcast. These boys ain't rap, but they are funny. Find the podcast anywhere you get your podcasts, or at roguemedianetwork.com. I tell you what.
So part of the book is you get sober, and I don't want to keep you here forever, but I want to kind of just go through this. You get sober in 2009. You start at Fox News in 2007. So somewhere along that 2-year run, you're bottoming out. What's happening?
Right. Well, like I said, the celebrities had died, so I was thinking about it. One of like the profound moments was that I was coming back from a party in the Hamptons where I'd been doing like Coke all day and drinking vodka Red Bulls, and I had like blueberry pie smashed on my face for whatever reason because I was wasted. And then I was coming back on the train with my friends, and I decided it was time to take my Ambien and Xanax because I just was constantly popping pills. And I put my strapless bra on my head like I was a pageant winner. And my friend, which I didn't remember, was like interviewing me about winning the pageant, and she was filming it. And there's all these people on there on the train. And I remember thinking like, oh, I'm so cool. I must be recognized, whatever. Well, so she sent me the video like 2 weeks later. And what I saw in that video, I was appalled at, because the people on the train were like very disgusted with my behavior. And I was just like slurring and flopping all over the place and snorting. Like I was disgusting. It was awful. And so I remember thinking like, okay, this is going to have to wrap up soon. And then 2 weeks later, I was down in Florida with, a couple couples, and I was like fighting with my then husband. And so I took a bunch of pills, and they couldn't wake me up. Like I was passed out and they couldn't wake me up. And so they came up when I woke up that morning. They came up to the bed and surrounded the bed and just all said different things that made me decide in that moment to go to rehab. And I knew, I was so like hungover and like my brain was like spinning, but I knew like, okay, if I do this, it'll be the best thing for myself. And then also like, I do have more to offer this world, and I have more to, I deserve this for myself. So I'm really glad that I had those thoughts in that moment.
I and you're vulnerable enough and cool enough that video. I just doing like my due diligence as a guy who wants to get this right as a news guy. That video is on the web of you on the bus. There's pictures.
So I went at the Fox in Philly. I did an interview to promote my book, and I aired some of that on there.
Yeah, and people, you can find it.
I didn't. It's funny. I didn't watch that until I had 9 years sober, because that's when I was starting to I was writing the book then, and I had someone kind of helping me, and we watched it together. And she actually laughed at it. Looking at it now, thank God I had the reaction that I had to it then, because that was such a defining moment.
And you can laugh now because you're sober. It is kind of funny because you're sober. If you weren't, and you were dead or you were in prison, then it wouldn't be. But it is, and that's one of the cool things about the book too, because I got the audiobook, which by the way you read, which is awesome. And there's a lot of laughs, because the fact is, if you get sober, you can look back on this stuff and it's pretty funny, some of it.
Like if I was still using and talking about how I used to get coke for my drug dealer and get straight A's and all that, like that wouldn't be very smart of me to be talking about that.
So your career's taken off.
The reason I'm public about it is to help others, as are you.
And
people know that I promise. There's a quote that's like, "I wish I never got sober," said nobody ever.
It's true. It's very true. And somebody like you too, I'm telling you, you paved the way for other people to come out. Even now talking to you, you're so transparent and you're so open about it. And there's a strength and a power that comes with that I think is really cool for people to see. And I hope people are listening to this and they see, like, you mentioned the fact that you were shy and bullied as a kid. So you drink to overcome that. And now in sobriety with the program, you're living life like a loose shirt. It's empowering.
Uh-huh. Yeah, you just have to remember, like, I couldn't go anywhere without drinking. Like, I would drink before going to church. I would drink before going to the movies. I would drink before going to, like, softball practice. Like, I would drink before everything. And now I don't have to drink before anything, and I don't even want to. It's the last thing I would want to do. I want to be present, and I want to remember those things and have real connections with people. And it's also so freeing, because I'm sure Pete, like, you can just go to the party, show up for the person's birthday or book signing or whatnot, and hang out for an hour or two, like talk to people, and then be like, all right, I'm over this, I'm leaving.
Yeah.
Whereas before you'd be like causing all this trouble and being up all night until the birds are chirping and feeling like crap the next day, and it was a vicious cycle that would just keep going and going. And there is a better way.
So part of your better way starts, you go to rehab, right? And then after that, you get out of rehab and you start to go to a lot of meetings, I'm assuming. And
I did what they told me to do.
There you go.
The rehab I went to was very AA based. I was kind of like Legally Blonde goes to rehab, like, and straight A, like, student goes to rehab, like taking notes, sitting at the front of class, going into town where the real people meetings were. I was like, okay, if I'm doing this, I'm doing it. But I also thought I was only going to do it for a year. I was like, I'll do this for a year.
Oh, really? So you thought I'm just going to not drink for a year?
Yeah, I was like, oh, that'll be enough time. And I went to like outpatient stuff for 3 months after, and got a commitment at did the 90 and 90 and all that stuff, and got a sponsor and worked the steps, and then at 8 months sober, I found out I was pregnant with my son. So really, my children, like I have a different path than a person who is maybe single in their at 25 or whatnot. Like that's different. But for me, like my kids, they helped me get through those early years of sobriety because I was in it with them, and I wasn't going to wake up hungover and like them need me. Like I can't think of a worse thing than being hungover and having kids be like, "Mommy, mommy, mommy." Like that just sounds awful.
And you're learning.
So I've been 100% present for them. So they're 9 and 10 now, and they know all about mommy and their stepdads, like sobriety, and they know when like we celebrate each year with the cakes and stuff like that. We do cakes out here. I don't know if you guys do that.
Yeah. Well, I know the California thing because my brother's involved out there, and it's pretty awesome, the birthday stuff. So real quick, you can't overrate the fact that you go through a divorce sober, you have a child sober, and I got to believe, and also, by the way, you go back to work at Fox, which is like not the most like cohesive environment, I'm guessing, at that time. There's a lot happening, and you're staying sober, and you're not drinking. I mean, that's a lot.
Yeah. I mean, if you read the book, it's like story. My husband read it, and he was like, "Oh my God!" Like the whole thing is like story after story of like this shit you've been through. But look, the 2 worst weeks of my life were the first week of like going to rehab and dealing with that and like knowing my life was changing, and then the first week of my divorce. It was like they're 2 weeks I never ever want to redo, but I'm so grateful for both of those experiences because they forced me to do the work on myself, and so much came out of it health-wise and like evolved life. So it's weird how that works. It's so true when we say like people's bottoms end up being like their blessings.
Yeah. And how did you flex that muscle after you get that blessing? And I can tell you start to do like esteemable things, which help you build confidence. Did you just continue to build off that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm constantly a work in progress, and I love it. Like in the past 2 years, my thing is like journaling. So like if I'm frustrated with someone, I immediately set my phone timer for 20 minutes, and I just allow myself to write everything about it, like all my feelings, like in a situation, like what's the worst case scenario that could come out of this? Like what have I learned from this? What was my part in it, and all of that. So that's a helpful tool. And then I meditate for at least 20 minutes every day. I might miss like 1 or 2 days a month or something, but that's a very helpful tool for me, and that keeps me sane and calm. I mean, that's a whole chapter in my book too, just like the meditation 101. Like, because I was like, oh hell no, I am not doing that. I have major ADD. Like, I am not paying a babysitter to go sit on a floor where I'm not burning calories. I had no interest in meditation. And then I started doing it, and then all these things were changing in my life. And then I became like addicted to that, where I just need it. My body needs it.
Your body needs a meditation. It needs a recovery. Are you still plugged into meetings?
Yeah. I actually, all of COVID, have been hosting one on my house has like a rooftop. So I've been having like on average like 15 people over every week. Don't call the COVID cops on me. We were outside. Oh wait, but you're in another state. We're a little crazy.
Yeah, I'm in another state. Yeah, I'm in Texas. It's a lot different. But I know again through my brother who's out there, who's sober out there in Hermosa, and he didn't like Zoom, and he didn't get on Zoom, and not for a while,
Really?
and he wasn't going to in person, and I think he would tell you he was wound pretty tight for a little bit.
Yeah, so I love Zoom, and it's great. I've been able to speak at so many meetings because of it. Like I don't, because when you have 2 little kids, like it's harder to make commitments to go places, and with the traffic in LA, and then having to get a sitter and all of that stuff. So for me to just be like, hey kids, be on your iPad for an hour. I got to speak at this meeting, and then be done in an hour. Like I think it's the best thing ever. And you can go to meetings like all over. I went to like a meeting in Australia and stuff. Like, it's so cool.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. I mean, it really is. Again, it's just such an abundance.
I hope Zoom AA meetings stay forever. I think it's great for people who are, are scared to walk into an actual meeting. Like, they don't even have to turn their cameras on if they don't want to. They can just like listen to the message from their computer. It's so great. And then I think like there were always AA speeches and stuff online. You just have to be willing to do the work. Sadly, the good thing is if you do it, but like people always are like, how do I do it? Or my daughter has a problem or whatever. So then I say, go to Al-Anon, or, there's no excuse. Oh, we don't have money for rehab. There's no excuse. Like, go to 3 meetings a day. Like, that's your rehab. Like, they're free. You can do that. But a lot of people don't want to do the work. So you do have to do some work. And I'm still doing work. Did
you ever compare yourself out when you did you go to meetings when you said, I'm not like these people?
No, I realized very quickly that I had a commonality with all of them, even though we weren't like physically similar or like job status similar or whatnot. Like, I was like, wait, I have more in common with these people than like other people like at my work or whatnot. I mean, I was just kind of told, like, take what you like from this. I'm so blessed I went to rehab. Like, I always tell people, like, okay, if you can, go. Because here's the deal. The consequences, like, with work knowing and everything, like, I don't know if I would have gotten sober if I didn't go to rehab. For me, I don't think I would have. Because I needed like the stakes to be that high. And also I needed the 28 days to like get in the rhythm of that. Like, and I needed that structure. I needed rehab to be so bad that I never wanted to go through that again, like that was traumatizing and very vulnerable for me to be there. Like, it was awful.
It was an intense.
I don't ever want to go there again.
It's intense. I went to a treatment, and like, I love how you said you started to listen to you started to do what people told you to do. I went to rehab, and I was pretty screwed up. So I went to like an extended care, quote unquote, air quotes, halfway house, or air quotes, extended care. It was like a halfway house for 4 months. And that's why I marvel at you going through all that stuff at Fox, and just being like a raw nerve, all that's happening around you, because I was literally like in a halfway house surrounded by meetings and recovery, and it really helped me out. Like, for the long-term sobriety model worked for me. A guy told me, hey, it's a couple months for the rest of your life. And it's kind of like what you're saying about rehab. If you can choose, go.
And I think that even if you don't have insurance, there's places, I mean, they may not be as she. And my rehab was a nice place, but it was not like, oh, drink green juice and go horseback riding and get massages and do yoga. Like, no, it was legit, like from 7 a.m. till 10 at night, activities, group meetings, like AA meetings, everything. Like, it was it was work.
Was it weird for you to go to rehab as like a celebrity?
I mean, I was like a news celebrity. There was like a big time celebrity in there with me, so the attention was there. Okay. On that person instead. How I don't know. I just felt like that was just such, like, I'm telling you, that first week was the worst week, and my divorce, like, it was just like out of body experiences, like of feelings you've never felt before. And I'm glad I journaled about it, because so my chapter 3 is all about my rehab experience. How did you get through? I mean, again, people should read the book. How did you get through that first week? Because you could have left if you wanted to. Well, here's the deal. I knew that it was costing a lot of money, and I'm very frugal. So if I'm paying for something, I'm way more committed. So what the strength to open up? Where did you find that? Where did you get that? Because that's a huge deal. Oh, coming out about it? Yeah. You mean? I mean, coming out, 6 years sober, you come out about it. And again, people
people that watch the news know, people see you or a news personality as like a buttoned up individual that they can trust. And so there's got to be a voice in the back of your mind that's saying, wait, if you do this, you're putting everything on the line.
Look, there were people like my great aunt who's 95 years old. She had a major problem with it, but hello, times have changed. I'm just super, very like authentic, and it was something that I was the most proud about in my life. So why am I going to hide that? And if there's a chance to help other people, that's why I put it out there. And look, by doing so, I mean, I technically gave myself a lot more work by being out about it, because then everyone asks you to speak, and everybody wants your help and all that. So like, if someone comes out about it, like, you should be like, wow, that's awesome that you're willing to help other people about it, because you're going to.
When you came out, there was the thing about President Trump, and people should read the book, former President Trump. What was it like to get like attention for that? Because you put this book out to help people, and then people take a sliver of it and they throw it out there. You had to be like, what the heck?
Yeah. We'll just leave the whole writing of the book, publishing the book. That was a disaster. I mean, I'm glad that the book came out, and I'm glad that it's going to be, hopefully a movie that will, and it's helping people. Like, I just have to remember that's it's helping people. But like, oh my gosh, that whole world, like, when you're not familiar with like the world of publishing and everything, there are people who will take advantage of you and con you. And I was extorted for my rights for my book. I mean, it was crazy. And then nothing went to plan on that. But look, now I'm glad that at least it came out when it did, because I got to have some book parties and media exposure, like go around the country and do interviews on news stations and everything before COVID happened.
It was January 2020, right? When it came out?
Yes. I wanted it to come out in January because of like New Year, New You, and also dry January.
Was that crazy to go around the country to talk about it?
I had like maybe 5. I did like San Diego, New York, Philly, and Florida. And then I did like radio interviews and things, web things here and there. But it ultimately, actually, the promotion of the book was cut off with COVID. Like, I had some book signings in other cities and everything, and that was all canceled. So my hope is that it will be like revived again if there is a movie.
Yeah, I think it will be.
Again, and I mean, it wasn't about making, trust me, I wasn't trying to get famous or make money off my book. And that definitely, neither of those things happened.
All right, last question before I let you go. What were you going to say? I stopped you.
No, I don't know. I'm rambling at this point.
Yeah, that's the best. That's the best if you're me. Let's get to what you tell people. I'm sure a lot of people ask you to maybe walk them through the steps or lean on you, especially when you meet young women in meetings. What do you tell them? People that have doubts about getting sober, people that just aren't sure, people that are on the debate squad.
Right. Well, first of all, I usually give them a link to my book, and I'm like, read this, because it is literally like the ABCs of like how it was, what I did, what it's like now, what you can do to get help. The fun thing is a pretty popular thing about like, oh my God, I thought I was never going to have fun again. And like, I promise you, like, I'm always like, I'm so grateful that this came into my life. Like, I didn't plan to have this journey, and I thank God so much. Like, I'm so grateful. I have so much gratitude that I'm sober. Like, all these I think people just see like all these amazing blessings in my life. I'm like, that's because I got sober. That happened because I got sober. And that's the message I try to promote, like on my social media too, is that like, hey, look, I'm dancing at a club and I'm sober and I'm having fun. Or like, hey, look, I'm doing this like serene thing that I never would have thought was fun before, and now like I'm loving this. And people are like, oh, hey, I want that too.
Do you have moments when you're like, I can't believe I'm doing X sober? Not X is it, but like, I can't believe I'm doing this and I'm sober?
Not really, but I also look, I'm not going to sign up to go on a like a day excursion on a yacht with a bunch of drunk people. Like, that just doesn't sound fun to me. If it was like, okay, we're going to sail around for an hour and come back, then of course, like I would do that. Like, oh, a sunset booze cruise, like for 2 hours. Like I could do that. But I don't want to be around like people who are getting wasted and obnoxious. Like, and my day is really busy. Like I have a lot of things to do. So I don't need to commit to a day hanging out with people drinking all day.
Before we let you get back to your busy day, anything else you got? I mean, where's your Instagram and where can people find you on Instagram?
Oh yeah, everything on social is just at Courtney Friel. My
Okay.
book's on Amazon. It's also on Audible as well, and just put out good intentions that it does get made into a movie so that it will help more people, because that was the whole intention for the book. Like I feel like this book's great for like if you know someone who's going to rehab. That's kind of like this would be a great book to read in rehab.
And look, you're the real deal. I mean, this is you're not sitting down talking to Joe Rogan here. You took an hour out of your day to talk to another sober person about helping somebody else, and that is right there, the proof being in the pudding. So I really appreciate you taking the time.
Oh well, I love talking about being sober. I don't know if it's always coming out as articulately as I would like to, because anytime I hear these things, I'm like, oh my God, I sound like such a valley girl.
That's awesome. Do you do a lot of speaking?
Well, this year it's all been on Zoom stuff, but I do panels and things. I mean, anytime people ask me to speak, I, for the most part, do, unless it's like 6 o'clock in the morning or, if I'm anchoring, it's like, sorry, I have to go to work.
Yeah, and you're KTLA now.
Yeah, I've been there 8 years. They've been cool about me being out about it. I think times are changing, and it's cool to be sober, and people, like lots of celebrities are sober now and talking about it, and healthy lifestyle, especially out in California. I mean, there's lots of people who just don't even drink because of they're vegans or something.
I do feel like we're moving in the right direction. Look, I'll let you go. I appreciate you so much taking the time, Courtney. Really, thank you so much. And this will be up this Thursday, so I'll shoot you. I'll shoot it to you if you want to listen. All right.
Okay. Well, thanks. It was nice to meet you over the podcast.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Courtney.
And if you're in LA visiting your brother, let me know.
All right, you got it. I'm not gonna do this to you, but I'm actually gonna be there a couple weeks from now. We're staying at Terranea.
Cool.
Yeah, because he plays music there a lot. He's a therapist out there. Kevin Souza is his name. So he's big in the sober community. He's big in the therapist community. So he's a good guy.
Well, hit me up because I have the meeting here. So you never know. Maybe you're in town for it.
All right. Thanks, Courtney. I appreciate it.
All right. Well, have a good day.
You too. Thank you so much.
Okay. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye. Thanks so much for listening to The Payoff with Pete. Once again, I'm Pete Souza. And of course, we are part of the Rogue Media Network. All kinds of good podcasts you can find at roguemedianetwork.com. And of course, you can find this podcast and all those other ones wherever you get your podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, other spots like that.
This has been a Rogue Media podcast.
Join the ultimate celebration of digital content with its creators, passionate fans, and industry experts. It's all happening in downtown Waco across multiple venues on January 20th through the 22nd, 2023. Tickets are on sale now at roguecon23.com.
Hi, I'm Hank. You might remember me from a show called King of the Hill. Check out a King of the Hill rewatch podcast. These boys ain't rap, but they are funny. Find the podcast anywhere you get your podcasts or at roguemedianetwork.com. I tell you what.